Let us know when you need us to shut up again.
Like now. And we should be live right now. And hopefully everybody can hear us and see us because everything should be going okay. And of course, we didn't go live through Twitch yet. So we should be going live through Twitch any second now. It's still going through. It's taking a long time. Twitch is having a lot of problems with this, guys. It doesn't like us. Everybody can hear us and see us. John, because everything.
We're going Facebook now.
Yeah, we should be live, everybody. If you're there, say hi so we can make sure. It seems like Twitch is having a big
Jackie,
issue.
say hi if you're there.
So
looks good in both now.
We look good in both now. Hopefully we got that okay.
Here says live, so we're good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Kathy's gonna be painting. I'm gonna be painting. We're gonna stick on our main screen right now instead of switching to the paint cam. But it looks like we're gonna have to do some updating and changing because it seems like we're getting a lot of problems with XSplit right now. So give me a second. Yeah, it's a little interesting. So let me
look at that OBS.
Yep. All right, we'll switch over to this. If you can hear us on, okay, I got there. I see Legionnaire says we're good and live. Seems like
Jackie
we have.
said hey, so we're good.
All right, just not showing up on chat right now, so that could be the issue.
I'm there, so we're all good.
Yeah, if you're watching it, John, we can keep going. Tonight, Kathy is going to be working on a Gellerpox character.
Yep.
And of course, I'm going to be working on my more kill team terrain because I promised I would get this done for the store, and I need to do it because I've held on to it for far too long. So
work on this alcohol.
Yeah, and work on the alcohol, which means I'll probably be doing it also sometime this week. Other than that, John, what are you drinking today?
Well, I'm gonna start off with a shot of the Apple Smash from Captain Morgan, and then followed up with a shocking combination of Dr. Pepper and Fireball whiskey. Kathy, what you drinking?
I am drinking Sapphire Gin and tonic with some lime.
Gin and tonic. Oh, snap.
I love it.
Let's see. Mine, I'm going to drink some more. I have a bottle of Cabernet I opened up for dinner, so I'm going to be working on that today. Ooh, I got a little bit of airbrush spray on my wine glass. No bueno, guys.
No.
So
we do have one to toast.
Yes, we do.
Veteran character actor Dick Miller passed this week.
Yeah.
You would know him mostly from Gremlins.
Mm-hmm.
And Gremlins 2, but he's been in so many movies it defies descriptions. There's even a good like sort of biography movie about him called That Guy Dick Miller. You guys should check out. So to him and everyone else. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's some good wine.
Happily. All right, so before we do that, guys, we got to do the business, as everybody says, because we need to do it a lot better than what we have been, and the better we do it, the better we are. We want to thank everybody that helped support us, our Patreon subscribers, for doing things, for giving us their hard-earned money to keep us up and running. We thank them a lot. We got some really cool stuff. We have new dice that are becoming in the way. For those people that have been subscribing to us. We also have something coming up on Wednesday, so be prepared to look on their Facebook page and all our other social medias to see that on Wednesday, where you can get something really cool from us. We also want to thank Tickton Craft Studios. Dan has been one of our sponsors since we've started. Been a really cool guy. He's going to be I believe he's going to be at LVO pretty soon.
and be there so everybody can see him there in all of his glory. And then, let's see, we've also got Mechanica Studios, which is also one of our sponsors. He's one of our sponsors. Which he will have our store up shortly, so you can rebuy some of our products that we've been trying to get out to y'all, which is our token set and measuring sets, which will be coming pretty soon. He had to redo part of his website to get that done, which is cool, no problem. And also Muse on Minis. Muse is now sponsoring our podcast. We really thank them a lot.
Thank you, Muse on Minis.
They are going to be doing some things for our podcast. And of course, we do everything. All of our content is supported on their page. If you need token sets or widgets or game accoutrements, that's who you would go to. So we want to thank them a lot because they've actually done really good by us recently. So
we want to thank all you guys who found us through Muse, for listening. And, it's really nice for us to see our listens go up as much as they have. And we appreciate you guys because we just do this so you guys have cool stuff to listen to, It's not for the tons of money we make. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's to give you guys some good support and to try and do what you guys like. That being said, if you guys have any ideas, feel free to hit us up on Facebook or find me or More Than Dice on Twitter or what have you, and throw some ideas our way. We're always happy to listen to what you guys want to hear and see what we can provide for you.
Yeah, because we're always open to suggestions. I mean, because usually what happens is we all get together once a week and go, hey, what do we want to talk about? And it's usually Thursday night.
What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about? Stuff. I'm like, okay. And then we all just kind of talk about stuff.
Yeah, but we'd be happy to talk about the stuff that you, the listener, would like us to talk about.
We could be talking about your stuff.
Instead of our stuff, because our stuff can we just make up at the fly. A lot.
I totally have this entirely planned.
All the time. I mean, we have these business meetings,
Super
right
organized.
before we get on there. Right before we get on air.
But yeah, if you have any ideas, feel free to hit us up. We definitely want to help. Also coming up soon, since the Pirate CID is coming out, I will actually be doing my best to keep up with the CID and recording some thoughts on it as it comes out.
That's that War Machine stuff, right?
That War Machine thing.
It's that War Machine thing. Which I will also be doing. We have Dawn of the Harbinger this Tuesday, so that's going to be coming back. And then I will be doing some more painting because I need to get some shit done. So I'll probably do some more streaming also, and get back to some more things. So, other than that,
theoretically, we should be getting some Mediocre Trouble in the Big Easy coming back after a month hiatus because of holidays and sickness and stuff. If not, stay tuned for, I don't know, The Adventures of Special Forces Bear.
Special Forces Bear.
Or something. We got some ideas, but there'll be something coming up here.
What else? Kathy, you're still streaming on Mondays and Thursdays, so guys, if you want to do that, make sure you check out Kathy.
I stream right here on the More Than Dice Twitch channel on Mondays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to noon Central. That's Chicago time. And I just do what I'm doing now. I just sit here and paint models.
With more talking from her, though.
Yes. Yeah, with more explaining what it is that I'm doing and stuff. So yeah.
I put the colors on the model. That's how I paint.
Yeah. Well, that's how we all paint, really.
No, I think a lot of you do a lot more than put the colors on the models. Any case, I think that's the business there, Gonzo. We on to the topic?
Let's go with the topic. Last time we were on, we talked about how we talked about 3 different CCGs that we were going into, and Kathy was all about champions, Age of Sigmar champions. I was all about Keyforge, and John was all about Transformers. Mm-hmm. And technically, if we really, really, really want to go to it, one of them's only a collector game in the traditional sense. One of them's not. And Keyforge kind of is not.
Yeah, definitely not.
in that type of thing, but the other two are, because there's rares and you kind of get and super rares, and you kind of get those randomly within the things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that's a little bit different, which kind of brings into what we were trying to talk about on certain things, because when you're buying into a card game, you got to be super careful. Are you going to be spending $400, $500, $600, and are you going to be a competitive player? How are you going to make sure that you're not wasting your entire life's income on getting into this game?
Yes, that is a big point of getting into a card game, is what is the collectability model of it, and can you control yourself so that you do not go overboard on it? Because card games can quickly become more expensive than miniature games. They can. If you are a competitive player, it is possible, especially if you're not getting it on the ground floor.
Correct. Also, going
you want to
with
play
that,
Magic right now, you would be, money. Just give them your credit card.
Well, and also you got to think, because Magic also has cards that you no longer can use.
Well, asterisks you can no longer use in standard play. They have alter formats. Magic
Correct.
is like an institution. They know what they're doing, and honestly, they've got it down almost to a science, so to speak.
I would hope so by now.
Yes.
I mean, they've been around since 92? 1992?
Yeah.
That was when I started playing.
So they've got it down. They rotate cards, back and forth as they go. They reprint stuff. They do what they got to do to keep sets interesting, and they do a good job of it. But you have to know yourself and know, are you going to play the card game competitively? If so, well, if it's collectible, you are going to have to be ready to take out a loan or whatever to pay for those cards.
With that note, the one of them that is different is Keyforge, like we were saying, because there's not a true collectible factor in it, because you had to pay for decks, and the decks are random.
An asterisk to that.
Yeah.
Inherently, there is no collectability factor, but
there's a caveat.
Yeah, that since the decks are all unique, there are decks that are legitimately just straight better than others.
Correct. Which that comes to the point of, like we were talking about the Four Horsemen deck, when someone paid $1,500. Hey, Trevor, for a Horseman deck. And that right there, if you think about it, whoever paid that, if that deck doesn't work for them, that's kind of a big screw off for them.
It is.
So there is a collectible factor, but not your traditional collectible factor.
Yeah, it's different. It is. You could just theoretically buy, the decks here and there until you get one that you are comfortable with and think can do well for you. And that's assuming what you're playing in is what we'll call the standard format. In most card games, they have what is called a standard format, which is pretty much you construct your deck and you play and you go. In Keyforge, it's you bring your deck, you play, and you go.
Jason Henley says, so you only need one kidney.
Yes, potentially one kidney.
Which you aren't wrong. Because if we go back to and we're going to reference, Magic the Gathering, some of those cards are worth a crap ton of money now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, Magic it's the granddaddy. It's pretty much the first. It is always going to be referenced, or like D&D is always referenced for a role-playing game. It's always going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, when I got out of the military, I had a bunch of Magic cards and was trying to move to some place that I knew I was getting a job at, and I had to have extra money, and was just being very cautious. I didn't have a lot of money saved up, so I took all my Magic cards, and I was like, yeah, I can get rid of these. And I lived off of selling my Magic cards for 3 months. Because that's how expensive they were, and that's what people would give me for them.
I traded Magic cards for my first computer and my first monitor.
Yeah.
I also traded Magic cards for a computer / monitor, the whole 9 yards. But then I had a Black Lotus.
Yes.
So it didn't take many cards.
No.
No, not generally.
No.
So you have to look at that. What is we're sort of getting ahead of the game. The first thing when you look into a card game, you need to know is what do you want to get out of that card game? What of the various strategy and mental exercises do you want to get out of the card game? Hi, Alan. How you doing? So let's go into some of the games we're talking about. Keyforge, if you're looking for that deck building exercise, that get the stuff together, think about it, and just make a cool deck. You're not going to get that out of Keyforge.
No.
Because Keyforge doesn't do that. Unfortunately. But, something like Age of Sigmar Champions will do that. Transformers will do that. Magic does that. Even to a lesser extent, most of the, what are they called? Living card games will do that too.
Yeah.
So you want to look at what you're trying to get from it and make sure you're looking at the right games to get what you're looking for. Because, if you don't get what you're looking for, you're wasting money, such as a good example is the Legend of the Five Rings card game, which I bought into when it came out. It does give most of that, There's no rarity, so you don't have to chase cards or anything. You just buy, initially, I think if you buy 2 of the box sets, you get everything you need. You get a full play set of everything with some extras of a couple. And then every time a new set comes out, you get a full play set for all the cards. So that's cool. And it has that deck building aspect, which I look for. But then, unfortunately, the one killer, and this is another thing you need to look at in a card game, is the time it takes to play a game is in a very, very weird spot. Something like Keyforge does not take a long time to play. Something like Transformers does not take a long time to play. I assume Age of Sigmar Champions does not take a long time to play a match.
It normally, yeah. It depends on what deck you're playing. You can have an ultra control deck that drags out a game, though. But generally, yeah, you're looking at about 10 minutes.
So you're looking at half an hour to 45 minutes for a best of 3, which is what I look at, generally speaking. And that's pretty similar to Transformers. Transformers is in that, 45 minutes to an hour for a best of 3, if you need to go to 3 games. So that's the time frame I'm looking for. Unfortunately, L5R started at an hour. And if you had a really quick game and ended up being more like hour and a half, almost 2 hours, at that point, why are we not playing a quick board game or a miniature game, since we are miniature gamers first?
Yeah.
So you need to look at that, and it's the hell of a card game coming out and you wanting to get into it. You may not have time to look into exactly how long it times to play, so you might lose some money on that, or end up with cards you're not using. So a little research on and self-thought of what you're looking for in the card game is where you got to start.
Okay, because Legionnaire brings up on this that how do you consider mini games with card components and sets that you won't buy except for that card, a X-Wing or Warhammer Underworlds. And if I remember correctly, X-Wing had a thing where, you had to buy that one model so you could get that one card so you could use it in the tournament.
So technically, I think only Armada of the Fantasy Flight games has still got that.
I don't know anything about. It says I play Legions. I don't think they do it.
Now I think you get a ton of the cards in the basic set, and then they pair the cards properly as each thing comes out. You get, but you're expected if you buy just your faction, you will have the cards you need to play for the most part. But yeah, you might need to buy a extra ship to play, and that's sort of a crossover thing. When I saw the people playing their Armada tournament, months ago, guys had bought, I bought 3 of this Rebel ship just to get this card. And I'm like, you are straight crazy.
Which I think is weird because, it's a card and it's a miniature game. If you have one of it, why would you need the rest of them? You know what I'm saying?
Because tournament rules are you need to have one actual physical copy for each one you were using in the game.
I know, which I think is stupid. I think you should have one physical copy of the card.
It makes it easier. You can look at the ship across. Okay, I see he's got these upgrades on it. It's sort of like a WYSIWYG sort of thing.
I could see that, but still, it's a lot.
The way they have the card set up is stupid. Yeah. Hopefully, Legion right now has kept it good parity cards come out, a set comes out, Wookiees and let's say, what are they? The Royal Guard come out, and they have the same upgrades.
Yes.
More or less, so that you can get all the stuff you need. Trevor, I would say Armada is the second best miniature game on the market if it wasn't for that card thing. And there is no confirmation it's getting canceled. In fact, I doubt it is because they're releasing Superstar Destroyer. I think there's something big they have planned for it, but they don't have it finalized enough to tell us. But I will talk to my connections in FFG and see what I can find out. In any case, back to card games. There's that weird, you got to look at that. That the whole, all the various aspects and see if it's what you want from a game. So when you get something like, Gonzo doesn't want to spend a lot of money, so Keyforge is perfect. He buys a deck, he's good, maybe buys another one once in a while. Or maybe you just find sealed events to play in, and then you get decks, and you build your collection, so to speak, that way.
Which I have a sealed tournament coming up in about 2 weeks, so I'll report on that.
And then on the other hand, you have like the Age of Sigmar Champions, which is also sort of in a weird spot because it has the digital aspect too. Kathy has tons of decks that she doesn't have all the physical cards for, so she can play them online. But if she were to play,
I can take them to the tournament that's happening in a couple of weeks, or at the end of February. There's a tournament. I had to actually go out and buy more physical cards because I just didn't have them for my physical deck. But I mean, in the digital game, you can earn cards just by playing games, or you can earn, I think they call them souls. They're these blue gems in the app that you can earn by playing more games, whether you're playing against the AI as a practice game, or whether you're playing casual games against other people, or whether you're playing in ranked, where you're trying to grind your rank up to master. Which I'm hoping to actually do this month. I haven't done ranked games, but this month I'm going to give it a shot. Of course, it's the shortest month of the year, but
fair enough.
We'll see where I go. And I just kind of volunteered. I signed up for a trial tournament. The first online tournament of champions, which is on the Challenge site. Are you using Challenge? I'm a newbie at card games. Champions is kind of my first game, not since like 1994, the last time I played Magic. So some of this stuff is new technology to me, and so apparently there's this site where you can do online card tournaments and stuff, and this guy has set one up for champions, and so I signed up. I'm like, what the hell? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm a joiner. I'll give it a shot.
I'll do my best, coach.
But yeah, so I'll be participating in a tournament that's probably about an hour away from me at the end of the month, with physical cards. I forget the point of that, John. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. But yes, the point is, if you get into a card game, in addition to, all the other ideas, you have to decide if you want to play in tournaments. Because if it's a card game, there will be a tournament scene for it.
Oh yeah, and then you want to figure out, do I want to just play online? Do I want to play on my PC? And Champions is coming out on the Nintendo Switch, and it's coming out on Steam in the middle of February. And so I guess tomorrow is where they're implementing a couple of rules changes. They're changing the layout of how the game appears, even on your mobile app.
Probably to make it all similar.
They want it to be the same all across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So
good call.
So that's changing, and it's a new game though. It just came out at Gen Con last year.
Yeah, Set 2 just dropped, is that correct?
Set 2 dropped in November, or at the end of November, and March 8th they're coming out with this Warband set, which is a set of some order cards and some what's the other one? Death. And it's just like, I forget how many is in it, but anyways, it's just this little set. It's like a teaser. And then their set 3, their official set 3 is Savagery, which comes out in April.
Yeah. So they're actually moving pretty quickly. I would say they're actually moving probably quicker than they should, but
You know, and it's funny because, and I guess every game has its people that like to decry the game and say the game is dying, the game is dying. But there are people who are like, these guys aren't moving fast enough, the game is dying. And I'm like, this game is like 4 months old. You know, when people were saying that, I'm like, it's literally only been around for 4 months. How can it be dying already?
Yeah, you came about the same time as Transformers TCG, and their set 2 is coming out in beginning of March. You know, where your set 2 has been out for months. I think your wide release was a little bit earlier, but still. And we haven't even heard anything about set 3, so it's plenty. People are crazy. They need to understand that you can't move too fast because people don't have money like that.
Well, yeah, that must be it too. Is the people who are saying that are the people who are willing to drop tons of money on whatever new shiny thing comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm over here like, let me just save up for a booster box of, you know, set 3, which comes out in April. I might have time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the things that. So tournament play is going to happen for any card game, and you need to decide. You should probably decide shortly after you start playing if you're interested. Example, when I started playing Legends of Five Rings, like Cookie said, I don't really want to play this in a tournament. I'm not interested in that kind of seriousness. And FFG loves to have all these specific rules. They had really specific rules for it. I'm like, that's not really my scene, but I'll play with my buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the time thing came up. It took more time than I thought. So quickly we just dropped it because it just took too much time.
Yeah, it's weird to have a card game that just takes so long, huh?
It's just it's almost a board game the way it is.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, most FFG living card games were similar to that. The ones I've played, at least, were always a little closer to a board game than a card game. But that's not what I want from the game. So, wait aside. On the hand, Transformers is what I'm looking for. It is quick and quick, easy. Rare cards are better than others, and that's another thing you look at for those collectible games.
Mm-hmm.
How good are they at balancing cards? Because generally rare cards are more powerful, but the cards still tend to be balanced overall. Like the rare card might be really niche, you know. Example, there's a really good card that turns all of your robots back into their car form, and then untaps one of your cars, which is really cool, but you have to play all cars. You have to play your cars. Doesn't affect anyone who's not a car. So, doesn't affect your tanks or your jets or your spaceships, your motorcycles, your neither, of which there is one, surprisingly, but that's more funny than anything. It was teased. There's a new Optimus Prime coming out that they don't have space on his line for all of his keywords to put truck up there. So he is not a truck. He's not a car. He just is.
He's Optimus Prime, bitch.
Well, he's the 4th version of Optimus Prime. But anyways. So you have to look at that. You know, what's their rarity scale? How bad? You know, if you really, really feel like you need every card to compete, how much is it going to cost you?
Yeah, because, I mean, there's a difference between a rarity of a Transformer and a rarity of
one of the battle cards, little cards.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at that. You know, there are 81 battle cards. I think a third of them are rare. So, and you can play 3 copies. So, I mean, that's a considerable amount of cards. There's only a handful. I have 3 of rares, and there's a bunch I have 1 of. And there's even a couple I still don't have any of. But to be fair, I haven't really gone crazy on it or anything. So you have to look at that stuff. It's the fine line of how much money are you willing to spend on the game should be a thought before you even get into the game. Let's see, what does Crimson say here? Is it just me, or do a lot of the time the people who say the game is dying are also the people who are killing the game? He says, I think I call that the War Machine rule. Technically, I would not disagree with you. A lot of the time, not all the time, the guys who say the game are dying are some of the ones who are killing it, but that's not, like a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
I would say part of that, because I've just been witnessing this on all the Warhammer Champions groups over the last couple of months. all these people. It's like the same maybe 4 or 5 people. It's a handful of people.
Mhm.
Saying the game's dying and here's why, and this is the other reason why, and this is a reason why, and if I was doing this, I would do it this way. But they're posting about it so much that when somebody who's new to the game discovers that group on Facebook, that's all that they're seeing is the game is dying. So they're like, well, oh my God, do I even want to bother to get into this?
So that's another one. That is a good point, Kath. Let's talk on that. The community for the game. How is the community? Is the community welcoming to new players? How do those people react to new players? And that's the hardest one to gauge because you don't always have a physical community. Sometimes it's an online community, and it is hard to jump into that community without really playing the game and see how it is. So that might cause you some interesting conundrums when you get that far. Luckily, I've found that the Transformers groups have been pretty good. They're all pretty positive. They're not any more negative than I would say. The average group. They're pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those guys, I find, at least my buddy, has been really good about going, oh, I've got this extra Transformer. 2 of them does no good to me at all, and we pass it along.
Yeah.
Like, we joke literally the next time, if we're in a local store and some kid's like, oh, I just started playing Transformers, I've just got a little bit of stuff, we're going to be like, oh, kid, welcome for all the Transformers. Here's a ton of Transformers. Go.
Yeah, there's actually in the Discord, so there's a Discord server for Champions, their official one, and there's a lot of really friendly people in that, and the people who sign up to be exemplars in the program, I found, are the ones who are doing that kind of a thing. They're basically doing like you're doing, where they want to help with organized play stuff. They want to run tournaments at their local stores. They want to grow the community. And we all talk about it in the Discord. And all these people are just making starter decks for kids to just give away at their game store for people who are interested in the game. They just take the cards that they've gotten from their, they'll get like 4 booster boxes, so they've got all these extra cards, and they're just making new decks for people to either demo, to try out at the stores, or to just, like you said, with a kid, just give them a bunch of cards.
Because it's better to grow a community than to shun a community.
Yeah.
And that's another good note, in addition to the community, which is probably the hardest of all of these. Unless you're getting into you're trying to get into a game that's been around for a while, that is the hardest to judge before you get in, is the community. Because it takes time to form. So if you're getting in on the ground floor, it's really hard to judge that. So that's sort of only applicable if you're looking to get into a game that's established. But the other point is, how good is the starters? Because that goes a long way for a game. So not Brushhead Dave grabbed Transformers cards because he was interested. He actually listened to us for just my portion of last time because he never listens. So I guess it means he's not a dice head too.
What?
Yes.
I'm broken-hearted, not Brushhead Dave. I am broken-hearted, but you're probably not even hearing this.
Probably not. But he got some. He got a starter and some booster packs. Came over and learned how to play it a week ago Saturday. He said, "I hope there's more rules in this because I've got the starter deck and I read the rules and it doesn't make any sense." Because the starter deck, the basic one with the 4 Autobots, doesn't have the full rules in it. It's a 2-player, each of you grab 2 Transformers and beat on each other. It is not the full game by any stretch of the imagination. And I have to ding them for that because you need to have starters that can actually do the full game. Now, the full rules are free online. They're also included in the second starter, which is the Metroplex deck, which is a terrible starter because it's Metroplex and he is complicated. So you sort of have to look at that, how good are the starters? So, I mean, obviously Keyforge, we don't talk about Keyforge this because they're all starters.
There are starter decks, but you're buying the starter deck, which also gives you all the tokens and all that other stuff, which you really don't need all of that per se if you're already in it, but you have friends in it, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's not that big of a deal. But there are starters. It's just not your standard type starter sets.
Yep. But that is also important to keep in mind because, I mean, you want starters that are actually, like I said, worth a damn.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what are the Age of Sigmar champion starters like?
They're not bad.
They're okay. They're mediocre.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just give you the basic foundation of what you need to learn to play the game.
Yeah, and then each starter deck comes with a booster pack in it, which is helpful too. So you end up getting another blessing, another champion, a bunch of extra other cards, and there is one blessing in each starter deck that's exclusive to starter decks that you can't get any other way. And those are actually pretty good blessings.
Cool. So aside from that one point where it doesn't have the full rules in it, which you could download, it is for one player. Like if you don't buy it for two people to just beat on each other and learn how to play the basics of combat in the game, which is not even the whole game. It is actually a good deck. Aside from that, it plays fairly well. It's 25 stars with the Transformers, which is what you play with. It has a decent outlay of cards. It has an actually decent mix of commons, uncommons, and rares, though I do have a problem that the two rares in it really aren't rare if you get two of them in every starter, but I mean, that's a different thing.
It's probably the only place you can get them, though, is it in the starter?
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
Well.
The only cards that are specific to the starter are the Transformers themselves.
No.
There's a Bumblebee, an Ironhide, a Red Alert, and a Prime.
Going back on the subject of rares real quick, I think, because you're saying that, I think it also depends on, because there are some rare cards that don't do jack or shit.
Yeah.
They're just rare, and nobody, even though they're rare, their value is worthless for some stuff.
Now, that's what we call a design problem more than anything.
Yes.
That's a problem. They thought it was going to be good, but when it got to the people's hands, they just didn't embrace it. And sometimes that's just cards that they know are going to be good in the future.
Could be.
Oh, yeah.
Now, and they're just getting them out now when they can because they've got them. There are very, very few cards like that in Transformers, which is a sign of a good card game.
There's one card in Champions. It's an Order Champion, and so in Champions, each of your 4 champions that you have in your game has 4 corners, and each corner has an icon, and that icon is a quest. Depending on what card you play, you can complete that quest corner. So there's one champion, the Knight Quester, ironically enough, who has a health corner. So you would have to earn health somehow on this champion, but there's almost no way. It's incredibly improbable that you would ever do it. And so no one plays that champion because it's pointless. And everybody's hoping that the next set will have cards that allow, a warrior order champion to heal. So, yeah. So that's one of those things where we're like, well, I hope they were just planning ahead with this card.
Yeah, you hope it's to plan ahead. Trevor Atwood brings up a good point, too. He says a lot of times they're bulk cards just to increase the value of other rares, and that some of them aren't built for power. I mean, fair enough. Sometimes a rare card is literally, it seems so corner case, but if you draw it in that corner case, it can be good.
So situational. Yeah,
I can tell a story of the old Star Wars card game from Decipher, where the big deck was called Shot in the Dark Deal, where you do all this stuff, you get what's called a soft lock with Dark Deal and play on Cloud City, and you just sort of win that way. But and you get rid of, you lose a lot of your resources. You're not going to get huge wins, but the games aren't going to take a long time, and you're going to get pretty solid wins with it. And there is a card that just canceled Dark Deal. And the guys would get Dark Deal down, and they'd just scrap get rid of the rest of their Dark Deals, so they don't not getting them back. They got no more to play, because they figure you can't break it, because they've got the stuff. You're like, oh, there's no way you're breaking this. And then they meet John, and John's playing the card. He's like, cancel Dark Deal. I guess we're done with that shit, huh? So there are sometimes that corner case card can save your butt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a big Dark Horse card thing. As long as it doesn't hurt my deck, I will put some of those Dark Horse cards in just because, hey, it might come up a spot where that card is really good to play.
I have a meme deck that I made for Champions, which takes advantage of the realm magic for the Realm of Fire. So most people have a set bunch of blessings that they use depending on which alliance they're playing. But instead of the normal blessings that people seem to always gravitate to, I decided to just throw in a bunch of the Fire Realm blessings, and then used the Fire Realm spells for wizards. And I've only played against the AI, just a few practice games of it. Tomorrow I'm going to take it into casual and see if I can win anything at all.
Push yourself to some victories. I mean, there's something said about Dark Horse in any game, but some of those cards are in there just to throw a loop in people. I mean, there's the meta, and then you sometimes you can break the meta. Jason Henley on Facebook is saying, I imagine designing cards as much as I can predict which D&D plot D&D characters will follow. Once I release the card, the meta will do unexpected things with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. That is a really good analogy.
No matter what you plan for, no matter what you think the meta will be, there is a chance that those crazy players will find something else.
They're just going to wander into a meadow to pick daisies, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, like looking at the Transformers cards, I expect the double primes. That's Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is the rare version, and then the super rare Nemesis Prime is, I thought like that's going to be the one to beat, but apparently it did not. It does well, but it did not do everything. Apparently, last tournament locally was Insecticons crushing people's souls, which I would not have expected. So it's interesting to see.
I'll be interested to see what kind of decks people take to this tournament at the end of February. I haven't actually played a physical game since I got the game. I got the Destruction Alliance and I got the Chaos Alliance when I first got into it at Gen Con. So I sat down at home. I had starter decks only of each one. I think I had gotten a few booster packs. So I just made decks up. I kept looking at the rules and I played myself Destruction versus Chaos. And that's how I learned the rules. Was just sitting there puzzling through all that stuff, and I kept having to look back and look back. And then I found the website, and then I found the forum through the website. There was a forum, and on the forum somebody had a link to the Discord, and a few people made Facebook groups, and I joined all these things because I wanted to learn the game because it seemed really fun to me. I didn't have anybody around me locally that was playing it, and I still don't. I mean, I live in Chicago, but all of the game stores are out in the suburbs. So it takes me quite a while to get to a game store. So I still haven't played a physical game except against myself.
So that actually is probably my last point of when to play, we'll say a card game in this case, but this actually applies to any game.
Yeah.
If your local people are playing it, if your local people are playing that card game, you should probably look at it because, I mean, that's a good way to get some more game time with your locals. In our case, Bowie was playing it, Paul, and he kept talking to me after other game nights. And I'm like, yeah, I'd said, look, if I can sell my L5R cards, I'll get some. And then, I took a look at finances and realized I'm okay to buy a couple cards here or there. So I got some and messaged him, and we came over, we played some games. He threw some extra cards my way, and then, Banyan grabbed some, and now Not Brushhead Dave. So I got a little crew locally playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the cards fly off the shelf at the local store. They don't have a night for it yet. That's a discussion for another time. But that's another good point. If all of your local buddies, if all your buddies are playing it, unless you have a real problem or it's not what you want, read John and Keyforge. You should probably look at getting some. Maybe not a lot, just enough to have some fun with it.
Yeah, because you like Transformers, we can't even buy them around us. Nobody around here has Transformers. Our local store doesn't carry it. Nobody carries any Transformers stuff. Because I was like, oh. Yeah, I mean, I thought about just going to get a couple of decks just to see, experiment, because you recommended it and look at it and stuff. And they're like, nobody around here sells it. So, I mean, I would never buy into it. You know what I'm saying? I could buy a deck or two just to kind of play in fun. And if I,
literally get on Amazon, buy the starter deck.
Yeah.
And then maybe buy a second starter deck, or maybe I'll find something to send you another starter deck with similar but not the same characters that'll play very similarly.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fun game, and that's sort of how you get people playing it, but you do have to look at who's playing it locally, No matter how much I love, here we go. Not Brushhead Dave bought the Final Fantasy card game at a con.
Uh-huh.
You can't buy that around here. I mean, you can't even find people to play that around here.
Yeah.
He bought it because it's fun, but that is not a game I would buy just to play with him because, that's not enough play.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get more cards. It's all going to be online purchases. And I do like to support the local stores where possible. Last time I had taken a day off with Bania, and we went to the local store and we bought, as we were cashing out, like, we're going to buy a whole box? Like, yeah, we'll split a whole box. We bought a whole box and split it up and had a good time.
Oh, I remember those days. Those days were fun. Buying whole boxes of a set that came out, the new set, and just sit with your friends and just open it up and go, oh, shit, this is cool. What is this? And, that was
pre-internet when you couldn't spoil all the cards and know what they all did.
Yep.
To be fair, still, spoiled cards are one thing. It's having them in your hands is another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have to look at all that stuff together, and decide if a game's for you. So for Gonzo, Transformers is not a game for him because he's got no one local playing it, and he can't get the cards locally, even if, say, the rest of it sounds good to him. If the deck building and all that appealed to him, it's still just he can't, with no one else to play. That might be, the bullet that puts a bullet in that game for him.
Yeah, and I will continue to play Champions because I can either play it physically, should I want to drive an hour to the game store if they're having a big event, or I can just keep playing it digitally on my phone, and soon I'll be able to play it on Steam on my PC.
Yep. I think it brings a whole new aspect to playing, which another game more people can play.
Which brings up another point. If that Champions is doing the digital version, do you think we'll see more like Transformers doing a digital version? Or, Keyforge, there is an official Keyforge one out. Because, I mean, I'll tell you this right now. If they had a Transformers CCG digital version of the game, I'd buy into it just because it's there one time and I could go, hey, John, you want to get a couple of games in, and we could, do whatever. And it would be cool.
I could see playing it as long as you weren't, paying a lot of money for digital packs. I don't like paying for digital stuff, with the exception of something like Star Realms, where, it's a Steam game. It is technically a card game, because I own the card game version of it, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's not one where everyone's got to buy. It's a one person buys and goes. But I could see that becoming a thing, honestly, between Keyforge and Age of Sigmar Champions sort of pioneering that whole interactiveness and scanning your deck and or packs to use them in the app. It's a very interesting function. I could see that coming in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, was it Magic the Gathering Arena? Isn't that a thing?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. There's a bunch of people
more of that coming
streaming that too.
Because I mean, you don't really need to necessarily do as much.
And the thing with these card games that are online is there's a lot of people that are streaming them.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you see them streaming the video games and stuff. And I think that's really cool. It's been fun to watch other people play the games and sit in the chat and talk about strategy.
Yeah, and not just streaming. There's also YouTube. I follow Wreck and Rule, who do Transformers TCG stuff. There's a bunch of guys. You can find some ones that have format you like and are interesting to you. And between blogs and Twitch and YouTube, you can find plenty of content for any game.
Oh yeah,
help you out.
There's always somebody doing something. Always someone online.
So, I guess the long and short of this is there's a lot to getting into a card game that you need to think about, and you should probably stop and think for a moment just before getting in.
Yeah, and it's more than just the money aspect too. There's also a lot of other things you have to be careful of.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wish I'd had more time to look at how long it takes to play a game of L5R before I got into it, because I would have immediately realized, while the deck building's there, non-collectability is a plus for me. I like the IP. My friends are willing to play it, but it just takes too damn long.
An hour game is, for a card game.
More than an hour sometimes. Yeah. Like, we left Marshall and Bowie playing a game and went to lunch, and we were pretty much done lunch like 45 minutes later when they finally showed up. And I'm like, come on, guys, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, we had gone to a sit-down restaurant, gotten our food and eaten our food before they got done and showed up. And they were a fair way through that game, it seemed. So that was the point where I really started to give it a hard think. And sometimes you have to do that. Give it a hard think. Is this game for me? Some of that Keyforge, yeah, I could play it and whatever. It's not a big deal, but it's not going to be any more than just sure, I bought a deck so I can play. I don't really care beyond that.
Yeah.
Because I do want more than that. One of the early card games that I played, Shadow Fist, which is actually the card game version for Feng Shui, which is the game we're using for Mediocre Trouble and the Big Easy. Apparently it's still around. They're still trying to get the next set off the ground. I think they've gone to a living card game version, which is fine. But myself and Banyan and Not Brushhead Dave all have cards for it, so if we need to, we can always play that too. And that's a good thing, those old card games. Once you got a bunch of cards, you can play that game whenever. People still play the old Decipher game. Hi, Kirk. Thanks for the hug. People still play that old Decipher Star Wars game. I saw some people posting about it on Twitter. I don't have any cards anymore. I gave those all to Bowie, and I think he's got them all up with one of his buddies in the New England area to use and play. But there's always, use for that as long as you've got enough to play with. It's still there forever because you got the physical stuff. It's not like the apps are going to stop working, which is a good thing about physical media in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
You may not have anything new, and in some cases, there will be more new stuff. Look at the web. So there's a game, Gonzo might remember it, Kathy might too, called Overpower, which was the Marvel. The Marvel card game.
Mm-hmm.
Super simple, and then DC came up with a version. Then Marvel revised theirs. That game lasted about 15 years longer than the cards came out for it, because there are people online making new cards, making alternate stuff that you could print.
Oh, nice. That sounds like Blood Bowl with the living rule book for years when Games Workshop wasn't supporting it.
Mm-hmm. And it did eventually die, as things will happen. But I mean, you could still play that. I had those cards for a long, long time up until, I guess the first time I moved, I was like, that's one too many to take. They're not really supporting it even online anymore. It's out. Or the Highlander card game, to which Banyan still has a bunch of it apparently down in his closet.
Yeah, the Highlander card game?
Oh, yep. Yes. The Highlander card game. We played the hell out of that Highlander card game. I feel like we were responsible for most of the sales on the East Coast. It was good. It was enjoyable. It was, a little diversion for us. We like to be weird.
What?
Yeah, and then Jason, this is the same thing happened with the Star Trek CCG. The Star Trek CCG came out. So Star Trek CCG was a weird one. It came out. It was not good. Sorry, not good. Interesting, kind of board gamey elements, sort of similar to the way the same company Decipher's Star Wars CCG played, but wasn't good. And then they just kept at it because it's Star Trek, and people buy Star Trek. This is still, Heck, DS9 was probably still in the air or just finishing up and Voyager was coming out, something like that.
Oh,
so it's
sure.
still big. And they kept it going long enough and had enough rules or rights that it actually became a good game towards the end. But eventually, license go away. Decipher didn't do smart things at all and ended up going out of business. So that hurts the game too. But that actually brings my last point on this stuff, I would say, is be careful when you're buying games too and look at the license. Because licenses go away. So,
Marvel game.
if that's the thing you look at for like Age of Sigmar Champions, that license could go away. Games Workshop is the license owner of,
That's true.
Warhammer and Age of Sigmar. But, it might not. It might be around for years. I don't know. You can never know how long it's going to last. But you have to look at that a little bit. L5R, I'm pretty sure FFG owns the license now for that, so I don't think it's a problem. But, they had their big Warhammer stuff. They had their GW license for a while, and that went away, and now look where they are.
Yep.
Now, as an asterisk, something like Transformers you need to look at, except for the fact that Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, and Hasbro owns Transformers, so that's not really a license issue.
No, not much.
It's all the same company there.
Yeah.
But you should look at it a little bit and just have that in mind. Like, you could lose a license. Now, something's
That's a good point.
niche, like there's a Robotech card game coming out. There's a bunch of Robotech stuff coming out this year. There's a Robotech card game coming out. You need to worry less about that because that's not like it's a big deal license. It makes my heart sad to say. But it's not like it's a big deal license, so that's probably going to last for a while.
Hey,
But
Kirk.
It is worth looking at.
He did ask a quick question. One of my favorite part of the ATCs, getting to see all my friends again that I only see once or twice a year.
Is that the best part of every tournament?
Yep.
That's the best part of every convention, yeah.
Like,
I will always say that.
I've had tournaments I went to and won. What was the best part? Seeing all my buddies.
Yep. Seeing all
Yep.
the people I only get to see once or twice a year.
So there you go. There's our card game talk. It's not exhaustive to any stretch of the imagination. And if you have any other full questions on card games or any specific ones we talked about, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. We'll answer them. Oh, Trevor, you watched one episode of Robotech on Netflix and it made you want to die. You're killing my soul, Trevor. Robotech is awesome. It is occasionally hard to watch because Min-May should die in a fire.
Well, I mean, he is Trevor Soul Crusher Atridge, after all.
I thought he was Trevi the Great.
Well, not anymore. He's Trevi the Breachstorm.
Trevi the Breachstorm, fair enough. But no, I still love Robotech dearly. It still holds up better than most syndicated U.S. cartoons.
Oh,
Technically, Robotech is a syndicated U.S. cartoon. I've watched some other ones, and whoo, it's painful. In any case, that's probably more better held for the media section, sponsored by Tectonic Craft Studios, which is coming up, I don't know, now, Gonzo?
Yeah, and actually I'm going to stay on this screen right here because Kathy's still painting and I'm still painting, so I'm just going to leave it here.
Okay.
Unless Kathy switches over.
I am almost done with my dude here, though. So, if you want to switch over, like, I literally have, like, a couple tiny little things left. I thought I was finishing it, and then I painted metallic paint over the lens on one of the eyes. So I just need to go change that, and I'm just blathering. So
Blathering Blatherskite?
Blatherskite?
Oh, that's old school. Sorry.
just
Not sorry.
I think I'm just going to leave it here. And then we can do it. Let me see how many I've got. I've got 3.
I have 3 things I'm going to talk about. Only one is a movie.
Okay. Kathy, how many things? You got your 10 series thing you watched. You binge watched.
I have, yep. I have the one series, and I did see one other thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh God, Kathy's at 2.
Yeah, Kathy's at 2. I'm at 3. You're at 5. So I guess you get to go first. Ding, 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 winner.
3.
You're 3.
I have 3. 5, Stop making up numbers.
The only one that I have that I can talk about real quick is I finished the entire season of Sex Ed, which is
Okay.
on Netflix, and it was good. Just found out they got renewed for another season, like yesterday or today or something like that.
That's cool.
So that's good. It deals with a lot of things. It hits a lot of, even though it's a comedy drama and they really push the comedy right at the very beginning, it does get a little bit serious as it goes on. And they start talking a little bit more about current subjects, and it's still interesting to see them talk about current things and have current parts of the world, but still using 80 music and 80 style clothes.
I like something that can get deep like that. That's
Yeah.
a comedy, but still has some drama in it.
Yeah, and like I said, it was still good.
That might break my brain. That's what broke my brain with A Knight's Tale.
But it still had some good stuff with it. It was still good, still solid. Some of the things that make you laugh out loud, and some things you saw coming, you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. But it hit some good notes. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next season to see where they go, to see how the characters develop and everything. They do flesh out Gillian Anderson's character, the mother, a bit more with her man whores. She's always, because she's like constantly sleeping around with all these different men, and like she's like just looking for sex. She's not looking for a relationship, and they develop her character a bit more about that, which was really good. And it was funny, some of the things that happen, especially whenever her boyfriends come out and her son's like, yeah, you're just sleeping with my mom. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. And, you know, the people get embarrassed, but it's pretty hilarious. You guys see it. So I would say maybe one space herpes, if you want to go there, if it's not your thing, but it's a good high school drama with a modern twist. So, it hits a lot of relevant things too.
That's cool. It does sound like fun. Sounds like something I'd like.
Yeah, it is. So, John, you're next.
My next, I will talk about the one actual movie that I guess myself and Banian watched. We were going to watch Polar, which is the Mads Mikkelsen, looks like a John Wick type story. But right before I went to watch it, I saw a couple reviews on one of the Facebook groups I'm on with movie guys, and it was getting ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to maybe do a little more research before I watch it. End result on that is I probably should watch it once. It's okay, but not great. So that'll be coming up at some point. Because Mads Mikkelsen, I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's cool.
So instead, we watched the second G.I. Joe movie.
Oh my God.
Subtitle, I don't remember. G.I. Joe, # the second one. And despite that, see, Trevi thought that Polar was okay. I mean, that's why I'm going to go see it, because, you know, there's a lot of varying opinions on that. So, it said it was good for at least one watch. G.I. Joe Retaliation is actually the title. I remember now, without actually having to use Wikipedia or Google. Great. So, G.I. Joe Retaliation, it's really one of those movies that's almost there. Unlike most of the world, I actually enjoyed the first G.I. Joe movie. I did not think it was great. I thought it was enjoyable. This one was definitely better. In fact, all parts. The funny thing is, even Channing Tatum returning from the first one was better in this movie for as long as he was there. Spoiler, he dies. But that's, I think, more of showing how they got a young actor who was not ready for these kind of roles into those roles early, and now he's maturing as an actor and actually acting well. But I mean, my favorite in this movie is, even though The Rock's there, he's not my favorite. My favorite is Jonathan Pryce playing the president, basically being Zartan being the president, and he is eating it up, and it is great. I love the crap out of it. Overall, the action's pretty solid. They definitely took it back down to closer to realistic levels of technology, not quite as crazy. I think that was definitely a dig against the first one. The technology thing was a little weird. They got, I think, just about all the actors back for roles they actually had in the movie. They wrote out anyone they couldn't get back. Ray Park is back as Snake Eyes. Did a little work on his costume. He looks great. Snake Eyes is awesome. He is always going to be the best ninja ever. Sorry to every other ninja out there. It's Snake Eyes. Ray Stevenson shows up as Firefly, and they made a good reason why it's called Firefly, because he's got little fireflies that fly in, and they're little explosives, and that's very cool. And Ray Stevenson is one of those great action movie actors that's always going to give you an amusing time. Enjoy him. Adrian Palicki is becoming a staple of action movies as well. She plays Lady J. She's fine in it. I guess the real problem is that they've gotten a little far from the G.I. Joe. If you're not Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, sort of Firefly, the guy playing Cobra Commander, once you get past those people, they don't really look like their G.I. Joe counterparts too well. So it doesn't really detract from the movie unless you're like a big G.I. Joe fan, and I'm not quite that big. But enjoy the crap out of it. It has some good action scenes, a very amusing plot. I think it definitely has gotten a lot more hate than it deserves. The worst actor in this movie is probably... Oh, I'm trying to think. Oh, wait. It's easy. It's fucking Bruce Willis. I was going to give it to the RZA as Blind Master, but I can't because the RZA truly loves that whole Blind Master Kung Fu shit. And he's trying. He's acting to the extent of his abilities. He just doesn't have them. Sorry, the RZA. I love you, man, but an actor you are not. You can do some roles, but this is not what you're made for. But Bruce Willis as General Joe is just not good. I'm going to say just shy of fuck awful. He is not good. His lines should have been... They should have gotten someone else to do that role. I'll be honest. You did not need Bruce Willis in this movie. You've got The Rock. I know it was before The Rock really hit super huge. But you could have saved some money and gotten someone who is more willing to play the role better than Bruce Willis. He doesn't hurt every scene he is, but he does not bring a goddamn thing to any scene he's in. So, that's me ranting for many more minutes. I'm sure you thought on G.I. Joe Retaliation. I give it 2 space herpes. It is on the good side of average action movie. I own it on Amazon Prime. I'll watch it at a moment's notice. It's good and enjoyable. Better than the first one, and definitely worth checking out if you like G.I. Joe or just like that sort of special forces, action movie thing. So give it a shot. Kathy, you should probably talk about your TV series now.
So Jim and I, after many months of Jim saying, hey, can we watch Man in the High Castle? The 3rd season? And I'm like, no, we're watching, well, anything but that right now.
The greatest takeoff.
Right? Yeah. So we finally got around to watching the 3rd season of Man in the High Castle. And I liked the first 2. The first season I really liked. The second season I liked most of it. But after the second season ended, I could take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3rd season, the first episode, I'm like mouth hanging open, and so we just had to keep watching it. We're like, well, it's 11 o'clock at night. I have to stream tomorrow. Well, we can fit in another.
One more episode.
Yeah, let's do one more. And it's chilling. It's weird to think, it really makes you think about what you are, what makes you human, and what you would do for your family, what kind of sacrifices you would make. Whether it's for the good or whether it's just downright evil, but you're doing it because you have to, because your family might get murdered. Wow. Like, what it approaches all of these questions. The one main guy, he's no longer Obergruppenführer Smith. He's now Reichsmarschall. of the U.S. Spoiler.
Damn it.
So Himmler has plans for him, and he basically tells John Smith that if he can't keep his wife under control, something is going to have to happen. And we all know that with Himmler being a nutfuck.
That is the most thinly veiled threat I've ever heard.
Yeah, basically. And so John Smith's like, well, shit, what can I do? I know, our son just died and everything, and she's grieving and she's angry, and so yeah, there's all these decisions that have to be made by all of the characters in this show based on all of these horrible things that are happening to them or things that might happen to them. And some of them are just trying to bring a ray of hope to all these people who are basically just kind of given up. They've just resigned themselves to this is how the world is. And so it actually ends. There's a few grim things at the ending, but there is this sort of ray of hope as the season ends. And we're looking forward to the 4th season, which is being filmed even now.
Awesome.
I mean, for those that don't know what Man in the High Tower is, it's based off of a Philip K. Dick novel from 1962, where it is an alternate reality where the Axis powers won World War II. And of course, and it takes place in the 1960s.
So what do you give it?
Yeah.
What do you give the season? How many space herpes?
No, you can't give it space herpes. You have to pay attention to what's going on. Every subtle twitch of the facial muscle.
They sort of give themselves sometimes.
Yeah.
It was amazing. There were moments where I was watching it and my mouth was hanging open. I was like, holy shit. And there were other times where Jim and I were just like, this moment just raised all of the hairs on the back of my neck. Because it was just so chilling. And sometimes it's chilling because you think, I actually could see that happening today just based on what's going on right now in the news.
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to adapt Philip K. Dick stuff and make it pertinent to today's. He was really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds like a 0 space herpes there, Gonzo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
0 space herpes.
0.
Gonzo, you want to hit number 2?
Number 2, Erica came over and was chilling out with me, and I told her that next time she came over, we had to watch a movie because she had never watched it, but she said she's heard about it, and she was intrigued, and I was like, yeah, because this is one of my movies when I was, childhood movies, teen movies, I guess you could say, and it was pretty influential and had some really cool actors in it, and it was done by Jim Henson, and because she's already seen Dark Crystal, and so I showed her Labyrinth for the first time.
Ooh.
Figured it had to be as soon as you said that really cool actors, and I'm like, well, that means it's not the Dark Crystal.
Correct.
Yeah, but it's funny because my first thought was Dark Crystal too, and then I had that same thought. So.
Yeah.
Oh, Labyrinth.
Yeah, and so I owned it on Blu-ray. I actually bought it on Blu-ray last year because some of the kids that I worked with, they earned a movie day with me, and they really said that they wanted to see something unique and interesting. And I says, hey, I think I have a movie with David Bowie in it, and they were like, oh, that's awesome because David Bowie's awesome. And so I brought, Labyrinth. So we watched it. It still holds up pretty decent. Special effects wise, it doesn't, of course, because those were, long time ago.
Yeah.
But puppets hold up as well as puppets can hold up.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
But
puppets.
I'm not talking about the puppets, I'm talking about the special effects.
Sure.
Because there are some
okay.
special effects in it, and, they don't hold up very well because you can see the black line around things, and,
Well, that's why, honestly, as an aside, you don't want to buy some of those movies on Blu-ray because The special effects don't hold up to that kind of visual.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, it still wasn't bad. You just like, okay, this movie was from a long time ago. I can understand, why the graphics aren't that great, which is okay, not a big deal. But we watched it. It was still good. Still have some good memories. It was interesting because she's watching. It was like, oh, that dog was her dog, or oh, that was one of her stuffed animals, and I'm like, yeah. All the stuff that you saw in the room pretty much is showing up as creatures in the show. And the characters are still lovable and hateable just as they are. The goblins are still cool as shit. They still have some good lines and, still cool things about it. I think Muppets are like kind of a timeless thing, in my opinion.
Muppets are pretty much timeless.
Yeah, because they've got really cool, character in their faces and all that stuff, and it was interesting. I did think it was hilarious, the ballroom scene, which to me is kind of one of the weakest parts of the movie, but I understand why. She goes, "Wow, that dress is very 80s," and I was like, "Oh yeah, very much." Yeah,
it really is.
Big puffy shoulders, the whole 9 yards type thing.
But let's be honest, when we saw it in the 80s, that's when we fell in love with Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, Jennifer Connelly. And she's like made a comeback. For some reason, she's making a comeback, and people are like, oh, remember Jennifer Connelly? She was hot. And,
well, they do that because Mia Sara did one a couple years ago, and then just again.
So, but it was still it's still a good movie. I think it was interesting that quite a few years ago, someone made a fake trailer of Labyrinth 2 and tried to bring it, tried to convince them to do a second part of it. And I was like, why? It ended just right. It wasn't.
Some stories don't need to be continued.
No. Excuse me. But people are,
Labyrinth, The Matrix, stuff like that.
But it just reminded me that someone made a fake trailer to make a Labyrinth 2. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. I'm still waiting for the remake, because eventually there will be another remake of it.
I don't know. You can't remake that because you're going to try and compare yourselves to Jim Henson's puppets, and that's not going to work well.
I just saw that they're talking about doing a remake of Princess Bride.
Yep.
Why? Andre the Giant's dead. I mean, come on. You cannot catch lightning in the bottle twice.
Well, it's all about remakes, because that's what makes the money.
Well, no, they just need to come up with more ideas, and people need to be willing to go see new ideas in the theater.
It's way less expensive to take a script that's already written and redo it, though.
Except that you need to write the script for modern people. You can't do a straight remake.
Yeah.
You gotta do something special with it, or you'll get ripped to shreds.
But it was still good. Like I said, graphic-wise, of course, it's never going to stand up because, we're so used to cooler things now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was not a high-budget movie when it came out either.
No, it was very low. And
that was medium, actually. I mean, Jim Henson wasn't cheap.
Well, yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. It wasn't like, for the time, it wasn't like the greatest budget, and you weren't going to get...
You get David Bowie. I mean, come on, you get David Bowie.
And David Bowie was in it, and it kind of cracks me up because I'm watching it now as an adult, and I'm like, David Bowie had like the largest package I've ever seen someone.
Video about that. My roommate showed it to me, and I cannot unsee that shit now.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, David Bowie was a stud. He was quite a sexy man, but I'm like, holy crap, did they like accentuate his package in that movie so bad?
And as
pants magic.
But nowadays,
pants
like,
magic pants.
Pants magic dance. It's Dance Magic Dance, but I may or may not own the soundtrack.
Oh, I own it.
Oh yeah, I was singing along right off the bat, especially
Remind me of the Babe?
Babe with the Power.
What Babe?
Oh.
So I mean, but I was just like, holy crap! How much did they have to influence on his crotch and stuff that up?
They're not questions that need to be asked nor answered.
Well, you look at all those ballet dancers. It's probably a dance belt.
Yeah, but it was just, I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, as a kid, I really didn't even do that. But as an adult, I'm looking, I'm like, damn it, Jack. Yeah, you can't unsee it once you're there. You're like, Holy crap, David!
Yep, can't unsee it. All right.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that sounds like a 1 or a 1 or a 0. What are you thinking?
About a 1, just because I mean it is showing its time, but nostalgia kind of pushes that to the side.
Yes, absolutely. So number 2 for me is I was having a really bad night apparently Thursday, and I don't know why. Just in a bad mood, nothing was really working. So I'm like, I'm gonna go downstairs and I'm gonna watch something familiar and friendly that I love, because that usually helps you out of those kind of moods.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw in, after having watched something last Sunday on YouTube, a retrospective on Cowboy Bebop. I threw in Cowboy Bebop.
Ah, so good.
It is, and I mean, I've watched the entire first disc just in time while I'm eating meals and all, because half-an-hour episodes are pretty easy to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And the first disc, I mean, let's just get to the end. 0 shots of Kraken for the first disc.
Oh yeah.
And how do you have a series where I don't think the good guys actually win a single one, yet it doesn't feel dark and depressing?
Yes. You're always rooting for them.
Yeah, hi everyone who's written, Avengers and, Avengers Infinity War or all this shit. Watch Cowboy Bebop. This is how you end. The heroes don't win, but it's not a fucking nut punch downer every time.
No.
You're not eliciting, the wrong kind of emotions out of it. You're like, oh man, they didn't win, but you're still excited for the next episode. You're still enjoying every bit of it. I'll say this unabashedly, it is probably the best anime ever.
Yeah.
And I think, Gonzo, that's why you can't watch other anime, because you started with the best and it's just gonna fucking go downhill from here. I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Anything I see, there are some one-off animes that may match it, but as far as the series go, especially made for TV in Japan, nothing.
Yeah.
You can't. The music is on point. The animation's perfect for the style. It's got that Serenity, Firefly feel to it.
Yep.
They could almost be in the same universe, for Christ's sakes.
Yep.
It's awesome. I look forward to getting through the whole thing. Hopefully I do before The Expanse is put out on Amazon Prime, and I get to watch season 3 for free and catch up on that. So right now, 0 shots of Kraken through the first disc. I'll do ratings per disc, 5 episodes or so. And we'll see how that goes. Kathy, you had number 2 also?
I did. True Grit was on TV.
Oh man.
And I'm thinking John Wayne, right?
Nope.
No, it's Jeff Bridges.
Oh, the new one.
I didn't know they made a remake of it. It was the Coen brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big deal when it came out.
Coen. It was phenomenal.
Well,
I loved the way that people talked in it. Just the way that they talked, the dialogue was so not modern. It was just, it took you right back into another time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of their strengths. The Coen brothers, one of their strengths is dialogue. They're very good at that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too, because I was like, oh, this is going to suck. And I was like, no, this is pretty good.
I was worried. I was like, what, they remade it, but I gave it a shot and I loved it.
Excellent.
So, and I like Westerns anyways, so.
Still not my favorite Western.
Well, not my favorite Western, but.
#Silverado.
It was good. Oh, I love Silverado. Well, so Tombstone is still my favorite, but Silverado is kind of close second.
I would go the other way around.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah. Gonzo, what's your number 3?
And I have another thing that I want to say, that I've watched a lot of Dragon Prince. I hang out with Erica for a little bit on Thursday, and she was watching it, and so I was watching it too. And I gave it a rating and stuff, and I still stick by my rating. And the animation, is still kind of janky and everything. Which they did state in an interview that they are looking to fix that and make it better for the next season when it comes out, which I thought was good. because they admit that it wasn't as clean and crisp as they wanted it to be. But watching that, someone was like, "Is this made by the people that did Avatar and Korra?" I'm like, "Yes," and they're like, "Yeah, I like this," and she did too, which I told her she would. And it brought to my memory, I still didn't own Avatar or Korra on Blu-ray, and so I bought those this week, and I came in Saturday. So I'll be doing a review of that eventually.
On that note, Willow just came out on Blu-ray. For
Oh,
anyone
I
who hasn't
saw.
you should probably look into that because they released it for 30th anniversary or something like that.
Yep.
And it had been out of print for a couple years, and the ex took my copy, so I don't care. I got a Blu-ray copy.
That's right.
Awesome.
But I recently watched Annihilation, Natalie Portman movie.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Where some asteroid drops in from outer space and distorts our planet. I've been wanting to see it because I like cool shit like that. I think it's interesting. Watched it through, and I really wasn't impressed. It kind of was predictable. It really wasn't anything exorbitant that I was ready for. It was just kind of meh. Special effects were good, so we'll go with that. Soundtrack was good. I ain't got any problem with that. It's just the story was just, you knew everything that was going to happen right off the bat.
Yeah. It's nothing worse than a boring movie where you predict everything and there's no super action to keep you excited.
Yeah, I mean, you knew exactly what was going to happen. You knew, you felt it. You were like, yeah, this is what's going to happen, and this is what happened. Even the ending was predictable beyond belief. And so I was like, could have been something cooler. Really, it could have been. But it wasn't. But, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. So it was just, like I said, it was just meh. I even looked up a few articles on it to see if they were going to do them, because I guess it's based on a book, and there's more books to come after this. And they're not even sure if they're going to do that or not.
No, I mean,
which I doubt. It didn't do good in the box office to begin with.
Your reviews were pretty much the industry standard on that. It's a resounding meh.
Yeah. Especially the ending. I go, well, this is what I think the ending is. What does everybody think? And everybody else said and think the same thing. That it's all meh. And it was just there. It didn't make me go, yes, I had to watch it again, or, ooh, I needed to talk about it, in great depth. Like, people were like, oh, people are going to be talking about this movie for years. And I'm like, no. No, they're not.
Nope.
No, because that's pretty much what it is. Exactly what it is. That's what I think it is. And I was kind of disappointed in it. There's a couple other movies I need to see that are on my backlog that I got to try to find that are that. But it was just, like I said, it was meh. I was just kind of, so maybe, 2 space herpes, 2.5, because that's the meh line.
Fair enough.
I would skip.
Is generally my meh line for an action movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would skip it if I was, anybody else.
If it's a skip it, probably a 3 then.
Yeah, I mean, cool special effects, neat things like that, but for overall, it just wasn't that great.
Before I go into my third, I want to mention that Jason Henley on Facebook is blaming Kopnik Scotty Potty on Twitch for the David Bowie in a swimsuit search. I find the cross promotion of that to be hilarious.
Our fans working in both chats.
I love it.
My last one is a trailer, and it is anything but meh. And no, I'm not talking about Avengers Endgame trailer. That was
We already got
it is
there.
what it is. I'm talking about Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
I meant to watch that trailer and I didn't get to
There's
it.
another Fast and Furious coming out.
It's not Fast and Furious because it's only The Rock and Jason Statham.
Okay.
And they're not part of the main,
Interesting.
so to speak, but
Yeah.
crap, I mean, I have
But
never
it's The
been...
Rock.
I have never been so in for a movie that looks like it could be fucking terrible as I am for this movie. I don't think it will be. I'm just looking forward to Jason Statham and The Rock in a movie, an action movie together, not liking each other and being just asses to each other and saving the world. with Idris Elba as the bad guy.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
even
Oh,
better.
Fuck yeah! I mean, I'm totally in for this movie. I'm not sure I'd give this trailer because the trailer is completely off the chain. If you saw, the Fate of the Furious, the 8th one, that seems to be the level they're aiming the action for. Completely fucking ridiculous. Physics is gone. They may have had physics murdered. We can't tell. Someone go look for physics, see if physics is okay. I'm a little worried about it. But, man, completely off the chain. Looking forward to it. I'm not sure if I can rate this on a space herpes scale. I give this movie 4 pixie sticks and 3 cans of Jolt Cola because that's the kind of movie it's fucking gonna be.
That's
just
like
gonna-
the best rating.
That's the trailer. I mean, if it's anything like that, I'm just fucking. It's gonna be great.
Hyped up 12-year-old on Mountain Dew and Pixie Sticks.
Dude, have you ever seen me hyperactive? It is a scary, scary fucking thing. Oh, well, there you go. That's the quick capsule review. Go look for the trailer for Hobbs and Shaw. I mean, if you like Jason Statham and Idris Elba and The Rock, you should probably be on board for this movie. And that hits in like the busiest part of summer. That is going to be just an absolute shit ton of movies coming out. It's going to be hard to find a week where I'm not watching a movie in the theater.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be.
So
And
that's our media section.
yep,
Yeah.
that is it. We have at the end of our episode 66. Join us next week, and we will do what we can there. For More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
I'm
John.
Kathy.
Good night.
Good night.
Fuck the Patriots.
Shut up! Did they win?
That's not over yet, but they
Oh,
just
good.
they broke the 3-3 tie.
Worried me.
Every time I see someone cheering for the Patriots, I want to